even though the changes that have come along could benefit someone with a style like ForGG more, for example, because he's so aggressive and can utilize these things to the best of his ability.
And wow, in a very, very uncomfortable starting position for both these players. In the bottom right-hand corner, it is ForGG spawning against his opponent down in the bottom left, SuperNova. In these positions, there's the watchtower right in the middle, which ends up being one of the dominating factors on Star Station. If you control that, I mean, just look at the edge of the vision that you will have under your domain if you control that watchtower. It means that, for instance, if ForGG has the watchtower, SuperNova has to be extremely on point with his defense, because literally he has no time to respond. Controlling that watchtower is I almost feel like that watchtower should be moved, man. That thing ends up being one of the most critical factors in this matchup.
Well, yeah, either that or kind of having these positions limited at least, because you're right, it does control a massive amount of space, and with now again the addition of these extra Reaper dynamics and just even wanting to put on any assault whatsoever, you're gonna have to take a massive path around the map to try and just sneak around, I guess.
And it looks like SuperNova starting right off the bat, going directly for that fast gas, and I actually think that is an excellent play at this point in time, because of course, the Reaper opening going to be excellent in these positions. We see ForGG, it looks like going for some kind of delayed gas. He's going for a gas on 15, it looks like. ForGG has to play super defensively. I'm super pumped to see the Reaper popping out early.
Yeah, so am I. I really hope that actually comes to fruition here as SuperNova for now heads out with the scout. Going to head up north. Really not going to be able to find too much there. Unfortunately, well, there's the potential that he will end up scouting ForGG completely last here. But he's just going to have Marine for now, so sticking to standard to begin with.
And you know, to emphasize a little bit, there's a number of transitions that are pretty critical in this matchup. Of course, we love talking about the new Reaper. It's like the new cool thing on the block.
Yeah,
it's all fashionable and whatnot, but the very fast Widow Mine ends up being another one of those dominating factors in the early game. For the most part, most Terran aggression, if you think about it, both in Heart of the Swarm, but especially in Wings of Liberty, is small numbers of big damage units. Harassment early is a couple Hellions, a Banshee, occasionally a Reaper. Rarely is it a lot of Marines walking across the map early on.
Yeah.
As a result, the Widow Mines can control a ton of space, and you can end up getting just in an enormous, like, double expand plus Widow Mine position. Really cool. And look at that, ForGG kind of boldly going for this reactor. He hadn't seen a Reaper yet, so he was able to build that right away. And there's the factory coming up. ForGG is going to be in a little bit of trouble, though.
Geez, that one Reaper taking out this SCV. I was expecting it to take out a little bit quicker, but then I remembered it's actually reduced the damage against light units. So not killing them off as quickly as you would normally consider them to be, but still being a hindrance. You can stay away from these Marines for so long if you want. Nice repair, though, by ForGG on that one last
Wow. Really excellent play right there by SuperNova and ForGG. Look at this SuperNova just using this stupidly fast Reaper to get everywhere. And this is the way the Reaper was meant to be. A super annoying harassment unit, really doing a lot of nice poking. An excellent last-second pickoff there by SuperNova to have delayed that long. Keep in mind, Reactor Barracks can do double Reaper production. But SuperNova, though, looks like he is preparing to get those Widow Mines up.
And I guess with the Reaper being how it's designed right now, then it also gives you not only the potential for that great harassment, but a fantastic option for really early game scouting. You can see exactly what your opponent is up to.
Oh, yeah.
So early.
ForGG now just waltzing his way forward. This is an extremely ballsy move, but he's probably assuming that if my opponent made a Reaper, he's probably low on Marines, and there he is pushing up. He's walking straight into the Widow Mine. Oh my god, just annihilates the front line with ease. And I think ForGG might barely win this. No.
Those poor Marines shooting each other exactly at the same time. Widow Mine recharging now, but the Marines for ForGG will end up falling back. Both players do have double command centers up and running, but ForGG's is nicely placed. Obviously, though, SuperNova knows everything about the placement of that. And here we go once again, ForGG going for a little bit of an assault. And
it looks like ForGG being way too overbold in my eyes. I mean, look at that. The Widow Mine is perfect against the very low unit, big damage dealing force, and of course ForGG with the scan picks off the Widow Mine, but these players are essentially producing at the same rate. Keep in mind the Hellbat mode, turning the Hellion into that Hellbat does mean that it gets healing from the Medivacs. So once he researches that upgrade, be able to make extra use of them Medivacs.
That's a very, very good point. It's just, there's so many new dynamics now with how they're changing things in HotS to add a huge amount of variance. And I mean, that is making the game so interesting to not only watch, but just follow the evolution of right now. And ForGG, with just these few units here, could still put on a lot of pressure.
Oh my gosh, that Widow Mine perfectly didn't kill any big pack of Marines, just dealt a good chunk of damage. And now ForGG has to be careful, has to heal up just a little bit, but with that Banshee arriving on the way, that's going to be a big problem for ForGG. He hasn't really set up a nice enough transition. We see Raven coming out right now. ForGG, I don't think... Actually, oh, there it is. There's the Viking. Intercepts. It looks like there's just a few more seconds until Cloak is done, but nope, ends up taking it down. ForGG in his classic style is completely controlling this matchup, and this is an interesting little mixture because as we're seeing, players are starting to rely a little bit more on the Widow Mine, which of course makes you a little bit more passive, and ForGG just completely exploiting that, and with this Raven coming up, he's going to have all the detection he needs to continue to apply that pressure.
Now, if this is how TVT is going to be later on, then this is going to be fantastic because there's so much difference and so much high-octane aggression in what you can do, as well as great defensive capabilities in the form of that Widow Mine and things like that. And just constant Hellions rallying across from ForGG right now. Which is on the way for SuperNova.
Dude, you heard me make that whistle noise, Killaris? That's because the siege tank sieged up and ForGG moved out literally the exact nanosecond he needed to avoid that tank fire. ForGG is continuing to shut this down. I'm actually super impressed that SuperNova has not fallen more behind in food, but he's really holding down quite well. Another Banshee went into the main. ForGG with the Raven Viking combo managed to take it out. Another swap from ForGG on those add-ons. Without that many upgrades needed to get things into full power mode, we see ForGG just going straight into tank production. And oh no, but SuperNova does have the siege tank up, and it looks like ForGG is actually going to go for it. Terrible timing, terrible corner that ForGG caught himself in, and SuperNova, having just gone for standard units the entire time, I honestly think is in a much better spot.
Really exploiting the fact that these siege tanks now have that siege mode instantaneously. It gives you so much more room early on as a Terran. You don't have to buy a huge portion of time to then get that upgrade out and try and push out of a light contain like that. And you know, SuperNova's playing really well. He's up to 44 harvesters to the 41 of ForGG, so he's not really fallen behind by any means. He's fine and dandy.
There's this weird spot that ForGG is going to find himself in. He is going mech, as we see with the factories there, building the tanks, but the Widow Mines are an interesting tool to incorporate early on. He needs to hold off this attack, which is not going to be too difficult given his position. But the Widow Mines provide a way for ForGG to really lay a solid claim to the defensive spots that he wants to, and to get up that early third command center. Likewise, SuperNova, as he's pushing forward, it's time for him to take his third. SuperNova, by controlling this watchtower, I mean, just look at ForGG's vision. That is such an uncomfortable set of vision pairs right there. I mean, just having his main, his natural, and that's it.
Yeah.
He knows he wants to go for the third, but an attack could come from the left at any point.
Right. One of the great things about that, though, for ForGG, at least, is the way in which he's started mixing in his units. He claimed air dominance really quickly in this game, and it'll be very difficult for SuperNova to try and grab that back, which in turn, you know, benefits the fact that tanks get their siege tank all the quicker, because, you know, all of these things work in tandem for ForGG to eventually claim back the map somehow. And even the incorporation of a Raven in to deal with Widow Mines is something that is fantastic. Terrans have been, well, for the longest time they weren't incorporating in Ravens into their compositions.
Yeah.
It's here and it's probably here to stay.
And there's the angle that he's trying to get at. Keep in mind there is that possibility of the Seeker missile landing down on that big pack of Marines. Kind of an odd exchange. ForGG desperately wants to get control of the outside of SuperNova's base, but of course SuperNova holding that critical Zelnaga watchtower. Very easy for him to control all this. And there, ForGG gets caught at a gross angle. It is going to completely decimate his force. Ouch! Accidentally sieging up directly in range of enemy siege tank fire. Takes some hits right off the bat, and looks like ForGG's kind of teasing a Seeker missile, maybe? Come on, ForGG. Come on, show us entertainment value.
Yes, please do. Those siege tanks on the high ground actually would have been good targets for that, but SuperNova placed those siege tanks so nicely. They provided such great cover fire for that bio eventually during those engagements. And, you know, I mean, interestingly, Sean, what do you think about the difference of bio versus mech in Heart of the Swarm right now?
Well, I honestly think that a lot of the principles that were in Wings of Liberty carry over. I mean, SuperNova has a slightly easier time with his transitioning, because in the original Wings of Liberty set, you kind of had to commit quite early to a Marine medevac composition, just due to the fact that you just needed a lot of Marines at the start to stay alive versus everything. But now we saw SuperNova open with that Widow Mine, with a couple siege tanks, and then just do a little bit of swapping to get up a nice Marauder and Marine count. And of course we see the emergency thrusters, or excuse me, the Ignite Afterburners, they renamed it, allow SuperNova to pop right in the back. This is the one new key difference between Bio versus Mech, where it's suddenly so much more difficult for ForGG to manage all these different locations at once without leaving some defensive Widow Mines. And he throws down the Seeker missile, and I almost wonder if it did more damage to his own workers than it did to the enemy.
He hit like one Marine of his opponent's army with that Seeker missile. I saw a red Marine, and I was like, wait a minute, what's going on there? And it's, it's actually the Hunter Seeker missile chasing it down. And yeah, didn't really do too much. Eventually cleaning up, though. But now he's going to push forwards with a pretty sizable force once again. SuperNova's been macroing up.
Yeah. This is the exact move that SuperNova wants to do. Mech versus Bio is all about positioning. SuperNova using that drop, more than happy to sacrifice it because he just needs to get into a slightly better position. And of course, he's going to fortify this by sending over these Ignite Afterburner Mega Speed Medevacs up on the right side. He's going to be poising there until he can find a good opportunity to get frontal position really set up. See, here's the drop at the back. And as that's going on, we can see that there's also doing... what are these medevacs doing? SuperNova flew some medevacs right into the Vikings at the front line. That's a terrible mistake right there. But SuperNova is continuing to fortify the front with siege tanks. That drop at the back is not going to go so well. But it's still doing exactly what he wants to do, which is to continue to pull ForGG back and deny ForGG that expansion.
And he's not only pulling him back, he's also going to push in at the front here with those Marauders, one or two attacks. But he's killed 30 workers during all of this harassment. This really shows the potential of those Afterburners if you really make them work out.
Yeah, I mean, without any turrets, and more importantly, without any mines along the backside, there's going to be almost no answer. ForGG, this is one of the fun mixes of mech in the mid-game, getting out just a single Banshee and stepping forward to pick off enemy siege tanks. Except ForGG just needs to fire one more time. Come on, just one more shot. Oh, that siege tank is so low.
Oh, he's going for it.
And he gets it.
Nicely done there, SuperNova. He's going to force the lift off of this third base as well, but he doesn't want to strain to that siege tank fire. As for now, the Hellions still dancing around. They can morph into Hellbat mode. I want to see the morph, Sean. I want to see the morph.
It would be pretty rad. Doesn't have any medevacs out to heal them, but ForGG is doing as about a good job as he can. Does need to keep both those armories upgrading. SuperNova doing exactly what he should do. He's sacrificing a seeming excess of units to just continue to break these lines open, to force ForGG to pull SCVs back, to rebuild SCVs, and in the meantime, SuperNova taking an expansion, taking another expansion. At this point, one of the things that he needs to do is to start flooding additional barracks, because he has the 2 starports, so he can maintain air dominance, he has the factories, but he really needs a little bit more meat on the ground, because when something like this happens, with this huge step forward from ForGG, SuperNova is going to need a way to replenish it very quickly, and it looks like ForGG has barely broken this line, and now it looks like ForGG's expansion is actually going to be able to build the geysers.
Thankfully for him, getting those gas geysers here at this point when you're going mech is so important. And, you know, SuperNova here, you're right, he has been pushed back, but he's just bringing over more and more constantly. He has, you know, an extra 1.5 bases up. Oh, but these Banshees once again from ForGG trying to take down as many of the siege tanks as they can do, constantly trying to push that back. And you can tell that SuperNova has played a lot of part of the Swarm with how he's executing this constant attempt at containing whilst putting on the harassment. It's really good to watch.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of these oh-so classic examples. This should go into a textbook. Like, if your opponent is meching, look at how we can exploit it. Just constant dropping at the back, probably not going to be a huge cost-effective trade in the back, but position is so important, and we're seeing SuperNova just get more and more and more bases. But finally, ForGG, upon getting a little bit of stability, will be doing that counter-attack, and I really, really, really like this moment of ForGG. Look at this. He's pulling all that Viking Banshee to the back. As he's doing his Hellion Harass at the front, he knows he's a little light on units to defend at the backside, and they're finally getting some kills. Oh my gosh, he's going to get, it looks like 10 worker kills compared to the 40 of his opponent.
Yeah, it's still a little bit of damage that he needed to do. He needs to catch up, and he needs to try and make that work. 10 worker kills for, I guess, 6 Hellions or something was not too bad. They're going to probably end up mining a lot more than that cost overall. And, you know, behind this, we still have even more Banshees on the way for ForGG. But SuperNova's going to max out pretty darn soon, and he can go for even stronger contains once he reaches that point, and it's really going to be scary for ForGG.
I think this is very cool, the amount of Vikings we're seeing out of ForGG. He's saying, you will never have your tanks outranging my tanks unless you want to be going for scan. And of course, with these Banshees, it means, look at this, look how quickly SuperNova is going to be taking out, ForGG is going to be taking out this front line of SuperNova's tanks. He's already gotten 1, 2 tanks. Can he get a third? And he does manage to get a third base, or a third tank. But not much ground is being gained by ForGG. He's just pulling the lead in the exchange. It's going to be these little Hellion harasses that are really going to pull ForGG through.
Yeah, that is going to be pretty devastating here. There's still a lot of workers here. They're all going to line up quite nicely as the Hellions going to try and chase them down. Nice split there by SuperNova. Keeps as many of his mules actually alive as he possibly can do. And look at this now with the Viking production trying to catch up. And he's almost actually caught up. The one big difference, though, will be that Raven with the PDD if he wants to throw it down.
Nice little high ground Hellions from ForGG. Threatens the 4th and also threatens the 3rd. ForGG, look at this, poaching over at his main base with that Viking Banshee to make sure that he's not losing position while he's doing this economic damage. And of course, SuperNova's continue to try to poke and prod and get a good angle of his own. What was once 40 workers killed by SuperNova to the 0 for ForGG is now 30 to 45. ForGG slowly pulling this back. And this is so cool because this game isn't being decided by just one big battle, man. Yeah. It's a ton of little skirmishes, and look at this, SuperNova's trying to do a big swing around attack.
This could catch him off guard, but, you know, having seen that, will be able to position himself quite effectively. And he's not moving on any of his tanks, actually. He just sees a few units move around there, kills them off with his Hellions, brings his Air Force there to say, no, you are not going to come around there. Because, for the most part, SuperNova actually doesn't really have that much anti-air. He has a few Marines here, but, oh, Hellions get completely decimated.
In this position, I still want to say that SuperNova has an edge. I mean, obviously he has the extra base up, but this battle is going to be it. This is the battle over the Watchtower. Point defense drones going down. ForGG has a slightly larger Viking count to start with, but we're seeing SuperNova pull out the edge in the end. Was it worth it? I mean, at this point in time, we're seeing the huge swell of Marauder Marine rip everything apart. ForGG so desperately needed that one Xel'Naga Watchtower, but this is the opposite of where you want to be in ForGG's shoes. You know you're never going to be ahead in that air count once you've lost that battle, so of course he's forced to go Thor. And look at the SuperNova with the emergency instant swing around attack.
Yeah, and meanwhile, there were 4 Banshees up to the top left, actually killing off a ton of workers. He's actually evened up, well, he did even up the worker kill count until just now as SuperNova still stims up, trying to take out more of these tanks where he can. ForGG realized he didn't have enough time to actually siege up all of these, but he still cleans up quite a lot of it, thanks to the fact that he has a Banshee in there as well with all these tanks.
This is looking, still, weird. I mean, the Banshee from ForGG managed to rip apart this worker line. 51 workers killed, but I think the more revealing number is that there's 32 total workers for SuperNova. And now ForGG's taking a fourth. This is a little bit of a bold fourth base. I feel like this is ill-advised in this position. ForGG's building placement has also resulted in some Thors being stuck in his main base, and they're having to run this gamut. This is actually like the ugliest build. This is like a fun house where it takes you through this weird maze. It's like an IKEA.
Oh, that's so true. Oh my god. Yeah, he can't actually get those Thors out without traversing a labyrinth, pretty much. And for now, we still have SuperNova actually poking away at the top of the map, trying to kill off these Banshees where he can. And just one Marauder on the high ground, which gets obliterated eventually by one siege tank. So, you know, ForGG is trying to recoup his losses, trying to get his economy going, but so is, well, SuperNova's mineral to gas ratios are not the best right now, and unfortunately, he can't really do anything with it.
Yeah, that's always one of these weird positions that you can end up in if you have a little bit too much late game, or a little bit too much mid-game harassment, is that in the late game, you don't really have those transitions available to you. I mean, gas, a lot of people consider to be the important resource, the constricting resource, the one that you base all your decisions around, but in reality, without those minerals, not much can go down. I mean, now SuperNova trying to step forward and break all the way through here, and I think he's going to do some damage, but with those Thors pulling back, SuperNova, again, is going to be just denied entrance. ForGG's really pulled this around amazingly, and now with the Banshee harass on the left side with a Blue Flame Hellion, I mean, ForGG is just playing amazingly with the counterattack harass.
Yeah, his mech style, you're right, it's played out for him really, really nicely. He's played the waiting game, he's played the longevity game, and he's prevailing just with these little small pokes that he's been doing later on. He said, well, you know, you're going to do the damage early on, but from that point on, once I get the perfect composition out that I want, and that opens up the possibilities for me to use a few units here and there, I can then even it up really nicely and then swing ahead, and he's doing it really well.
You know, I will say that's one of the hardest general techniques that I'm seeing. Actually, not that I'm seeing, that everyone's seeing, James, because I'm not the only person who watches StarCraft. But it's that technique of, if my opponent is trying to be mobile, it means he's going to be trying to get in my face. The Marine Marauder from SuperNova trying to get in ForGG's face, or Mutalisk trying to get into Terran's face. And rather than just be defensive, we see absolute amazing expert players exploit that to their advantage. ForGG doing this counterattack harass, saying, yeah, SuperNova, come on, try to contain me, stay outside the front of my base. And then there's all these counterattacks that have put him in such a good position that now he's able to do this gigantic offensive, and suddenly it's SuperNova who has to be positioning everything super carefully.
And speaking of great positioning, ForGG placing just a few Hellions up on that high ground, exploiting that fourth base, whilst ForGG also killing off another base up to the north here of SuperNova. But at the same time, we have the Vikings. I think they might actually end up landing over here at the fourth of ForGG, and indeed they do. There's just units everywhere. Hellions killing off so many workers down to the bottom left of SuperNovas, and those siege tanks and Thors just trying to hide for cover in the north.
Well, SuperNova did a reasonable move trying to put those siege tanks up on the high ground, but ForGG with those Thors can easily bust those tank lines, and it looks like SuperNova is going to be fresh out of bases. ForGG losing his own fourth. Can he save it in time? It's a target fire. We've never seen this. What is going on? Oh, land it! Land it! Land it! Land the freaking command! No! No! He could have muled it up. He could have played musical command centers and lifted and landed and lifted and landed, but no.
Oh my god.
Oh.
Well, yeah, that happened. There was a little bit of a drop, but ForGG cleaned that up in his natural, and the Thors are finally going to end up dying here to SuperNova's tanks. But still, ForGG has been macroing up like a boss behind this, and he still has 24 tanks! How? Oh my god, SuperNova, he's down and out. He has hardly any income, but neither does ForGG, actually.
You know, ForGG, I will say, has got himself in the better position, but we see some long-range mining SCVs fortunately able to defend a counter-attacking squad of Marauders. I mean, this game is about as weird as it can go. but I give a lot of credit to the new units for making it so sweet. The Ignite Afterburners upgrade. Look at those tanks. This is like Slayer's Boxer and Brood War circa 2001. Look at this. He's not even sieging. He's attack moving. Those aren't Marauders for GG, but he's still treating it as such. Stepping in. Look at that. Who needs concussive shell when you're a tank?
Too true, especially with +3 weapons and +2 armor. ForGG's mech has just been phenomenal this game, holding back
Wow, and a good game. Holy God, that was impressive.